And ladies and gentlemen, I'm ready now for what you have to ask me on anything other than what we had the briefing on. Those who haven't asked, yes, Gautam.
Sir, could you give us some sense of the meeting between Afghan president and the Prime Minister and reaction about his wish list, so-called wish list?
Yes, I've been plagued with these requests. Some call it wish list, others said shopping list. But I don't want to get into an approach of, say, a fly on the wall, because that's what you would like to know. I certainly was not a fly on the wall there. Otherwise, I would have been swatted and wouldn't be here. So I will try and give you a different perspective, and that is what were the broad areas that were the fulcrum of this visit, and how we see this visit in the context of our relations. And I think you will get a feel, despite not being there and despite not getting the ingredients of this dream wish that you have to know about it, but I will try and give you some information which will perhaps try and satisfy you about the contours of that of President Karzai's engagements in India. Well, President Karzai was on a 2-day visit to India. This was his thank you very much for reminding me, but I wanted to use another statistic, and which is that this was his 3rd visit in the last 3 years to India. He came here for the strategic partnership agreement, following which he also came here last year for a state visit, and this was his 3rd visit. Of course, if you take the visit of our Prime Minister, that were 4 visits during the course of 3+ years, etc. But that said, this was his 3rd visit. You have seen how laudatory he was in terms of his responses to India's development assistance to Afghanistan during his convocation address at the lovely university in Punjab. And subsequent to that, he did come to Delhi and he had meetings with both the President and the Prime Minister. In addition, he also had meetings with the senior BJP leader, Mr. Lal Krishna Advani, and several CEOs of Indian companies. Now, our assessment is that such visits and regular consultations strengthen our bilateral relations. And the current visit has, in our assessment, further strengthened the strategic partnership between India and Afghanistan, which have historic and civilizational ties going back several millennia. So our assessment is that this was a visit which did enhance our strategic partnership. Now, as Afghanistan moves towards its critical security, political, and economic transitions, which are also marked by a drawdown of the NATO forces and scheduled presidential elections in 2014, we feel that the strategic partnership between Afghanistan and India can play an important and crucial role in providing security and stability to Afghanistan. India is ready to stand by Afghanistan as a close and friendly as well as historic neighbor through these transitions, and will play a due and responsible role in this regard. During the meetings, it was also agreed that India and Afghanistan will work together and will do all within their means to promote stability and security in Afghanistan. That broadly covers the security-related issues. But then our relationship is not limited to safety and security. While this is an important factor, there was also an occasion for both the sides at the meeting to review Indian-assisted projects in Afghanistan. And let me try and tell you, during the last 2 weeks, there have been some developments on these projects. One is that the Vice President of Tata Consultancy Services, Mr. Ramadurai, had visited Afghanistan and explored the prospects of Indian investments in skill building in Afghanistan, and skill building specifically related to computer software. Separately, Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, who is the founder of the Swaminathan Foundation and is being designated as the chairman of a task force constituted to establish a national agricultural university in Kabul, did visit. The idea is to try and realize the potential of Afghanistan's agricultural development. Now, these were two examples of Indian industry and expertise trying to contribute to Afghanistan's development. And both the leaders felt that these were positive developments, these were in accordance with our core capabilities in this regard. Finally, there was a discussion on the Salma Dam and the new parliament building, and these projects were reviewed. And it was agreed to expedite and complete the work on the new parliament building so that it is completed in the first half of next year. That's the timeline on which we are working. So if I may try and sum up, there was a discussion on political and security issues. There was also a discussion on development and economic issues. That's the sum and substance of President Karzai's discussions with the President and the Prime Minister. Yes, ma'am.
Is there any pointed help that they have sought for with regards to security?
I think I did mention that I am not a fly on the wall. And you can either come and try and see is there pointed or not pointed, or, as I said, we stand ready and will do everything within our means to promote stability and security of Afghanistan. Just one. No, you finish your question. Anyone else? Who hasn't? You also asked. I see you've all run out of questions. Yes, Kalon.
And you were also saying,
Pardon?
You mentioned the word critical, and you also pointed out that
Critical? No, I said crucial.
No, you used the word critical.
No, important and crucial role.
No, before that, while beginning, critical, and you
Correct. Transition.
Yeah,
Yes, sure.
Yeah, I just want to know because
Critical security, economic and political transition.
Yeah,
Sure.
and the way you said, as if you are apprehending something, can you please tell us, what are India's fears in Afghanistan? Because we hear a lot about, what Afghanistan is moving towards, but we don't understand what are India's fears in Afghanistan. What might happen in that country that might be bad for India? Can you please spell it out, sir?
No, I think you need not worry about fears. I don't think I ever said fear, because we have to understand that our interests in Afghanistan are neither transitional nor transitory. So we are there and we will be there for Afghanistan for all times because we are neighbors. Neighbors can't transit in and transit out. So let's be very clear that as far as India is concerned, our engagement with Afghanistan is neither transitory nor in transition. It is an engagement which will continue, but we do understand that 2014, and I have indicated to you the issues in 2014. They are in a transition, a political transition, which means they're going to have elections next year and the presidential elections. They are in an economic transition, which means that they will increasingly become, increasingly have options of economic assistance in terms of investment, etc., and all, from a period where they have had a lot of assistance because of the security situation. And security, of course, because now it is going to be the Afghan National Armed Forces who are in a transition to take over. So there are 3 types of transitions, and we are ready to provide and work with Afghanistan in all these areas. So I don't think there is any concern as such, but as a neighbor, we do understand that there is need to be engaged in all these fields. Yes, ma'am.
Around this time last year, we hosted an investment summit in New Delhi. Was there any discussion to look at the tangible outcomes of that summit in terms of how it has boosted Indian investments in Afghanistan? I mean, have Indian businessmen felt more encouraged to invest in Afghanistan?
The very fact that President Karzai had a meeting with, amongst his important meetings in Delhi, were meetings with CEOs, indicates Indian interest as well as Afghanistan's interest in economic engagement. And we see the very fact that we opted to have a summit of a kind which was unprecedented as far as we were concerned, a summit for investment in a third country in India. This is the first time we've ever done it, and it shows our interest and our keenness to push forward on the economic engagement. Now, I just wanted to go back to some of the things that Kalol indicated, and that is, I think I need to explain that as far as we are concerned, we respect the choices and the decision of the people and government of Afghanistan. And we also recognize that there is a political process underway. All we seek from that is that it should be Afghan-led, inclusive, transparent, and it adheres to the red lines which have been agreed to between the Afghan government itself and the international community. And so as long as these issues are met, we have no major concerns, because these are agreed to parameters and frameworks for transition in Afghanistan. Anything else? Yes. Oh, sorry.
Well, Afghan army officers are trained in academies here. Is there any proposal to expand their quota? I understand we can't put boots on the ground.
You know, our capabilities in terms of training are modest. And within those modest capabilities, we are trying to do our best. We are engaged in a regular dialogue with Afghanistan about their needs, and we will take it from there as regards our training. But while it is modest, it's not insignificant that we are providing that assistance. Yes.
Among the things that India must be weighing up regarding expanding its security cooperation with Afghanistan is the very stability of the Afghan army. Is that something prior to 2014 that's been taken into consideration, the risk that if you do increase the supply of equipment to the army, it ends up falling into the wrong hands? And as a same question, but when would we know more about the decision on whether or not to respond to Mr. Karzai's requests?
As you're aware, I did mention that we will have a meeting of the Strategic Partnership Council a little later during the year. I've also indicated to you previously that under that there is a subgroup which deals with political and security consultations. And these are all mechanisms that we have to continue this dialogue. The very fact that we meet at very high levels and also at other levels is testimony to the extremely regular exchange of information that we have. For example, if I just say from the beginning of the year, we've had a visit by the National Security Advisor to Afghanistan. We've also had a meeting between the External Affairs Minister and his counterpart in Almaty, and we've had a visit of President Karzai, all within the space of, say, 5 months. We have a regular schedule of interactions, and it is also normal that some of our leaders meet on the sidelines, because while President Karzai was last year in November, but prior to that he met Prime Minister in Tehran at the NAM summit. So they are virtually meeting at very short intervals, exchanging information, and we have no problems in terms of our channels of communications being active all the time. I only answer one question from one person. Yes, Sandeep.
So, of the subgroups of the Strategic Partnership Council, how many have met so far?
I think we've explained this previously. One has met. We've just constituted 3 others along with who are going to head these groups, and we intend that they meet shortly. And if you want the details of those, I will provide them to you, who head each of those subgroups from our side. Yes, Vishal?
So the Chinese premier has left India, but the Chinese flags are still flying on Rajpath. Is there any particular reason for that, sir?
I would suggest that what we always do is that we keep the flags till the day of the dignitaries leaving India. So his visit is from 19th to 22nd, and these, I can assure you, will be taken off. You don't have any concerns on that. Well then, yes, sir.
So there are some report that the Japanese government is ready to resume nuclear talks with India. So do you expect that the both government will agree on the resumption of the nuclear talks on the occasion of the Prime Minister visit?
I can answer it in several ways. You, like other Japanese media, are scheduled to meet the Prime Minister. You can ask that question, number 1. Number 2, we also have a briefing on that shortly. However, if you would like to understand our wish list, since today is the day of wish list, of course, nuclear is an important component of our energy mix, and therefore we see and have interest in engagement on nuclear matters with several countries, including Japan. We've started that dialogue is underway, and if you say what you say is correct, obviously India will be ready for that. Oh yes, on Saudi Arabia, yes.
On 25th, External Affairs Minister Salman Khurshid to visit Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
In that visit, what about your hopes to solve the issue which relate to the new rule, Nidakat?
I think we have to understand that the Nitakat law is a domestic Saudi issue. It does not apply only to Indians. It applies to all nationalities. Number 1. Our focus has always been to try and see if the law and its implementation has an impact on Indian nationals in Saudi Arabia. Then we would like to ensure that it is done in a humane way, in a dignified way, and which meets the interest of our nationals. Now, my understanding is that they have given a 3-month period in which the Saudi government has told all those who are irregular in Saudi Arabia to either regularize their stay there or to leave the country with dignity. We are in that process. Now, as far as the External Affairs Minister's visit is concerned, he is visiting here on a bilateral invitation from his counterpart, Prince Saud Al Faisal, who is the Foreign Minister of Saudi Arabia. This was originally scheduled earlier this year, but for various reasons it had to be rescheduled, and he goes now. This, of course, will be an important matter in terms of the discussions, but the discussions are to cover a variety of other issues. And those issues are matters of energy, matters of cooperation, anti-terrorism cooperation, issues relating to the Arab world, and we have two major declarations between India and Saudi Arabia. Those are the Riyadh Declaration, which was issued when Prime Minister Singh went to Riyadh in 2010, and the Delhi Declaration, which goes back to the visit of the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Abdullah, when he came to Delhi in 2006. This is to review the implementation of those declarations and how far we've proceeded on that. So on the table are a large menu of issues, including, of course, the Netakat issue. Thank you very much.